Eek! It's a cat! Oh, and animator... Do that again. And animator Bill Kopp is here too. It all starts now on Stay Tuned. Welcome to Stay Tuned, the show for animation lovers. Recorded live on Twitch, broadcast on YouTube, and proudly streaming on Patreon. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, I'm your host, Phil Machi. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Kumbaya, everyone! Tonight's special guest is animator, writer, and voice actor Bill Kopp. All that, and you'll have a chance to share your thoughts, questions, and opinions with me for a live Q&A after the show. Tonight's episode of Stay Tuned is sponsored by Austin Film Meet. Got an interest in pursuing film, video, or new media? Austin Film Meet is one of the most well-loved communities for independent film in Austin, Texas, utilizing events and programs to bring creative people together. Creatives of all types are welcome, whether you're an actor, director, writer, or any other artist. AFM is focused on raising skill levels and professionalism through increased awareness, education, and experience. Learn more about their upcoming events and more today. At austinfilmmeet.com. After working together with Savage Steve Holland on films like One Crazy Summer and Better Off Dead, Bill Kopp went on to develop a number of animated series for television. These included Schnookums and Meat, Mad Jack the Pirate, and The Terrible Thunder Lizards. He's probably best known, though, for co-creating and voicing Eek the Cat back in 1992, which then had an impressive 5-season run. Bill Kopp is here to talk about that and so much more in just a few moments. But first, this. Bill Kopp, welcome to Stay Tuned.
Well, hello, Phil. It's great to be here.
That sounds an awfully lot like a cat that I once grew up watching.
Well, actually, you would sound like, well, hello, Phil. It's swell to be here.
Ah, there you go. There you go. That's perfect. Well, Bill, first of all, it's a real honor to have you here. I can honestly tell you that.
Well, thanks very much. It's great. No, I've been sort of just pitching stuff and working on this book, and this is nice. It's great to have these little interviews pop up. So, no, I love it.
So, hey, I wanted to start off by first saying, after watching cartoons that you've made and the stuff you did in college around that time and then afterwards, of course, for television, is it safe for me to say that you were heavily influenced by Tex Avery?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay. And Bob Clampett.
And Clampett, yes, of course. Your work absolutely evokes that just over-the-top energy.
But I'll tell you, the early stuff, because at Cal Arts, I was a painter originally. I was really into illustration and guys like Gerald Scarfe and Ronald Searle, H.R. Giger.
Yes.
You know, Pink Floyd The Wall movie came out and it blew my mind.
I love Giger, too.
And Yeah, those were my early influences. But as we got into cartoony stuff, then the more psychedelic and squishy and wild the cartoons were, the better. So that would be your Tex and Bob, right?
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned the more bouncy and cartoony, the better, because I'm kind of on the fence about this. Like, I can make an argument for either situation, but cartoons where there's not a lot of that. And again, there are a lot of cartoons that don't have a lot of bouncy animation, and I love those cartoons. I'm not knocking them. But I have a real passion as well for cartoons that have that squash and stretch mentality. Does it kind of get under your skin when you see a cartoon that just feels very stiff?
You're not really doing full-on cartoon animation unless you have the visual side of the message, involved in the cartoon. If you're just doing, straight funny, I mean, if a cartoon could work as a radio show, in my mind, it's not really a cartoon because the visual aspect of animation is half of the trip.
Right. Right. And again, I feel torn saying that because I love a lot of the stuff that, Warner Brothers DC Comics combination that they put out. There's some beautiful stuff that they do, but they take a more realistic or anime approach to it. And it's very different than, say, traditional Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes.
But you can also say that about like a lot of stuff, like, BoJack Horseman or whatever,
Yes.
Where the drawing and the animation is not part of the journey or part of the entertainment of those things, and to me that's not real animation. But again, on the flip side, you got Rocky and Bullwinkle, which was limited animation, but really, really funny. That is very cartoony.
Yes.
A lot of stuff you see now that's very flat and not animated with a lot of zeal, it's not that imaginative.
Right. What's funny about that is my background is as a comic strip artist. That's very true in the comic strip world too. There are comic strips where the art will not change from panel to panel, but it's based on a writer's mentality. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and they're not using the visual. To me, the power of animation is mostly visual. I mean, I love cartoons that have no dialogue. When I was a little kid, I used to love those Pink Panther cartoons.
Oh, yes.
Just because they didn't have any sound. I thought that was cool.
It was very cool.
But, use animation for its power, which is, visual storytelling.
Right.
That's a big mixed up bag because a lot of them do it because they don't have the budget. So they cut way down on that. And to some of them, it's just not important, like BoJack Horseman. It's just not important that you draw well.
Correct. It's more about the writers getting clever dialogue and some interesting concepts along, for sure, yeah. So
right, and it's couched in the cartoon style, but it's not real. It's not, in my book, it's not real animation.
Exactly. A good modern example of, I don't know if you've seen it, but have you seen Super Jail?
Oh yes, I have. Yeah,
I feel like
crazy.
Yeah, it's very psychedelic. I feel like that would be right up your alley. That show.
Yeah. Well, it's a fine line. You can go all the way. We can talk about how beautiful animation is and all that, or you can slice and dice that forever. So
sure. You and I share a love of stop motion animation, and I was wondering because I know which films got me inspired as a kid. The obvious Will Vinton stuff aside, of course. But what films inspired that love in you?
Oh, Jan Spankmeyer was one. Ray Harryhausen, of course, that was the first one. There's a lot of stuff that was done in Europe that was really cool. God, see, they're taking me back to school. I'm trying to remember all.
Are you referring, when you said this Spankmeyer, are you referring to that Alice in Wonderland piece?
Yeah, that's a great one, but he did a lot of shorts.
It's so good.
Really
it's such a good film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's really weird. That's how I started out with animation. Before I drew any of it, I was doing clay stuff. But I would have to say that Ray Harryhausen was the thing for me. The Skeletons and Jason the Argonauts, Cyclops.
That's the one for me. Jason the Argonauts
and King Kong.
Oh, yeah, King Kong, of course. So
King Kong had great passion to it too.
Well, yeah, and that's what's interesting is when you're limited as far as your resources are concerned, you have to get more creative.
Absolutely. Your limitations should force you to become super creative.
Yes.
You got to find another way to make that impact. I had to be really creative when I started out because my first camera didn't shoot single frame. So when I was doing my first clay animation, and I didn't know if I was shooting 3 frames or 8 or whatever, Yeah. So the animation was terrible, and I was like 10 years old trying to figure this out. And then I learned that there was single frame cameras. I begged my dad to get me one, and he finally did.
Oh, cool. As a kid, that's a great tool to have.
Oh, God, it was wonderful. That's all I did.
I wasn't right there with you, but we had a video camera, and I was in charge of making all the family movies at that point.
Oh, yeah, everything. Well, they let me take over the basement, that was like a whole studio,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was pretty busy. My first camera came when I was 9. It was my grandfather had an old Kodak Brownie. It looked like a lunchbox,
Oh, yeah, those things were massive.
I mean, you had to wind it up to make it go. That's how old I am.
Nice.
And then I got another one after that. But I was always busy drawing or making movies, downstairs.
Yes, in the Mad Lab.
In the Mad Lab, yeah. And they just stayed away. It was great.
Oh, cool. A huge part of my upbringing, which I'm sure is the same for you and a lot of other artists, is Tom and Jerry. And to be honest, I haven't seen the newer direct-to-video movies that you worked on, but I still want to ask you about that. How was that experience to work on something that has such a legacy?
Well, it was great. And the thing that I did was, first of all, Tom and Jerry was not a big part. I mean, I did love the MGM Tom and Jerry's that, Joe and Bill did.
Yeah.
But I was more in the Looney Tunes category. Tom and Jerry's were kind of ancillary in my experience, but I did like them because they were so well drawn.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And then, of course, in getting to Warner Brothers and having them, ask me to do those, I wrote 3 scripts, but we made 2. Of course, that was amazing,
Sure.
But what I did was I brought the violence back, and Bill really liked that.
Oh, you Bill Hanna?
Yeah.
Yeah. To take the violence out of Tom and Jerry would be to remove the cartoon.
It's like taking the strings out of a piano,
Exactly.
You got to go there. So yeah, they didn't talk, and it was slam bang right from the start. They're not the greatest animations I've ever done, but they were fun, and of course it was. You have that legacy to fortify, and you want to try to carry on. I think we did pretty good.
Awesome. How do you feel about the announcement they just made about the live action hybrid?
Oh my God, it's probably not going to work. I don't know.
I didn't
really hear much about it yet.
Yeah, the story. I read the story pitch online. It doesn't sound like a bad story, but I'm just a little concerned because of things like Garfield.
But see, yeah, and that last. Well, I wrote a Woody Woodpecker feature that was really funny that they just put on the shelf, and then they made that one pretty much for Argentina, I guess. That live action combo. I don't know why. Everybody, you're asking me questions that are really like crazy, and I could go off on this. They're very loaded.
Yeah.
Why? That's what always happens. It happens with the Looney Tunes. It happened. I was on the Looney Tunes shorts, and that happened there.
Yeah.
It's just like people starting to mess with this thing. I mean, you can try to soup it up, and I guess the studios always say, well, we got to try to top it, and there's nothing wrong with trying to do that, but you got to top it in the right way.
Sure.
And I would pretty much bet that it won't work. And I'm not sure why. It's not it never works, does it?
Yeah, well, the term lightning in a bottle comes to mind for a lot of those projects. And it's like, well, why not just go and try to make your own brand new lightning instead of try to recapture the same,
Yeah. What do you think those guys were doing back there in the 30s and 40s trying to come up with stuff when there was nothing? They didn't have anything to really look at.
Right. They were inventing.
I don't know why we don't think about it this way.
Right, right.
Everybody's trying to and then they try to spin the characters a little bit. Right? Well, bring them up. He's like, there's nothing wrong with those characters.
Right.
They're perfectly fine. Put them anywhere.
Exactly.
And they'll function.
So
I don't know. I have my doubts.
I'm with you on that. And when I heard it, I'm like, gosh, that seems like a dicey operation, but we'll see. Obviously you've gotten a number of cartoons onto television, and some creators barely only get one. And it's incredible to me when I think about what you've done, because I know that a lot of shows can die, like they'll get a pilot and then the pilot won't even get a chance to air, let alone have a full season. So what can you tell me about the process of being a creator and having your ideas get filtered through the machine?
For me, it was timing. It was timing of the era, because it was sort of the rebirth of television animation. So there wasn't anybody there. There was like Margaret West with Fox Kids. And there wasn't a lot going on there. After Tasmania and Tiny Toons, all that stuff came out and started getting popular, then we sold Eat the Cat, and it was easier back then. After like Snuggles and Me, things became really popular, more executives moved in, and it became more difficult to sell ideas. And now it's damn near impossible because there's so many people involved. And back then it was really like the Wild West. It was like, you got an idea? Great, bring it in here. Hey, they got a funny cat. Bring it in, Oh, he's got a pirate that's nuts. Okay, we'll take that too. It was like that. It was like for 15 years, just about everything that came into my head wound up on a TV screen or something. And like any overloaded business, too many people get involved and it becomes harder. And there's this, that, and the other thing. And now it's so crazy now. I'm more interested in doing my stories into books than I am to bringing them into animation. It's just so crazy. I was out there pitching last year, and it was nuts. It was like, there's so many gatekeepers now.
That's so funny that you're saying that, because I'm on the reverse. I'm on the opposite. Like, I studied animation in college, but the last 15, 20 years, I've been spending my time putting things into books, and now I'm trying to get back into animating. It's just funny to hear you say the reverse of that.
Yeah, well, it's just my experience. It's like, it was really hard. And the stuff that I had developed into shows, there was a lot of them. I just couldn't get anything sold. And I know they weren't bad ideas. it's just, it wasn't right, or it was right for that place. But that never happened. So the answer to your question is like, when I started out, there was nobody else really going. It was easier to do back then. And, that's how I was able to do like 6 shows.
Yeah, because, you look at a show like Mad Jack the Pirate, and you're performing the title character, you're writing, producing, doing voice direction. That is not the way it's done anymore.
Oh no, you're lucky if you can get through the front. It's ridiculous now. And I don't want to really get into how awful it is, but the gauntlet that you have to run to get anything made these days is completely opposite of the way my experience was at the beginning.
Wow. Well, since you brought up Eek the cat, I'll go back to Eek for just a moment. So how did you come up with Eek, and perhaps more importantly, Sharky the Sharkdog?
Oh, well, okay, so Eek came along because, Savage Steve and I were great friends. We were at Cal Arts together, and I did Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer. And
right.
He had a deal with Fox or something. And he came to me and he said, let's come up with a cartoon about a sympathetic character that gets the kicked out of him all the time, but never gives up.
Right. Something
very sympathetic, kind of like a Charlie Chaplin,
Okay.
So we were just kicking it around, and we dreamed up this cat and started drawing stuff and do storyboards and stuff like that. And it just went from there. And then we pitched it to Margaret, and she loved it and bought it. Sharky came along because we wanted each to have a love interest, and that was Annabelle. And then I remember this distinctly because we were on an airplane flying to Toronto, and I think we were writing the first episode where Annabelle shows up, and we were both like, God, we gotta have something in between. He's gotta have something to get through to get to her.
Right.
And I was like, well, there's gotta be a dog, right? It's like, yeah, but it can't just be a dog. It's gotta be like a shark dog. Yeah, like a shark dog. and I drew him on the plane.
Oh wow.
And actually, Kyle Carosa has that drawing.
Oh.
He bought it from me.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's the original first Sharkdog drawing. It was very simple to do. It was just like, well, you got a dog and you put a fin, you dorsal fin on his back, and there he was, that great silent villain. Or is he a villain? Because Sharky does have some sympathetic traits.
Sure.
But yeah, we needed something. It was like the moat between Eek and Annabelle. He has to get past this dog.
I kind of feel like that with any girlfriend, that there's some kind of a moat that you have to
cross. There's always a barrier, some quest, something has to be conquered, to get through to her. But it ended up being a really great contrast with Eek. It was a great combination with the Eater.
Sure. Well,
this is fun. Well, the real point is that there's not a great deal of thought that goes into these things. You got to understand that. I mean, a lot of it is very quick and anarchic, and these thoughts just come, and you're like, well, that's a good, this is the problem. Today, they think too much about that stuff.
Right.
Back then, it's like, no, it's a dog. Yeah, but what kind of dog? Well, he's a shark dog. Bang! There you go. It took 10 seconds.
I love it. There's like an overproduced sense to a lot of what's coming out now, is what you're saying. Basically.
Yeah, you notice that too, huh?
Well, how can you not notice it when you have, again, the cartoons... Yeah. One of my favorite shows, and I don't think a lot of people know about this show. I honestly wish they would treat the property with more respect and bring it back. That's a whole other tangent I'm not going to go off on. But I really loved the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat. And it was great because... I'm glad you know it. Because
Well, do I know it? I mean, Tim Bjorklund was one of my roommates at Cal Arts, and he directed that show.
It was brilliant because it was a throwback while still introducing a modern storytelling aspect of it. And it just, to me, that's what a cartoon show needs to be. It needs to be something that is a little bit familiar, but a little bit different.
Tim animated the bunnies in One Crazy Summer.
Oh, okay.
Tim was great at doing 30s style Fleischer kind of cartoons. He did the bunnies in One Crazy Summer, and so it makes sense that he would wind up on the Twisted Tales of Felix, because that's perfect.
I mean, it worked out amazing. It's you can let him know. I think he did a great job. So with nostalgia and streaming services being what they are, bringing back all these different properties, is there any chance we're going to see a return of like the terrible Thunder Lizards or Eek for that matter?
I wouldn't do it, man. I wouldn't do it. You can't go back, and I wouldn't want to go back. It was delightful. It was great. It was what it was. If you start thinking like that, then you're doing that thing we were just talking about. You're doing that. What if we had Tom and Jerry in the live action this? It's like, dude.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I think they're great. Look, Eek went on for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
That's plenty.
How about like the Blu-ray treatment? Are we going to see anything like that?
You know what? Disney owns that. They own Circus of Meat. They own Mad Jack. And it's all sitting under Marvel and Star Wars. I doubt it. I mean, people ask me that question all the time. And I'd love it if Disney would release something because it is a huge cult favorite.
This is one of the things that I was mentioning earlier about companies not treating their properties better. They do this with their own series as well. The stuff that they made in-house, like DuckTales and things like that. Or even the newer Mickey Mouse shorts that they're doing with Paul Rudish.
Well, some of those are pretty funny, though.
I know, but I'm saying, but they're not putting them out. They're not giving them like a full volume.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, what you're willing to rehash your original animated movies, but you're not willing to do that with your short cartoons? It's weird.
Yeah, I don't understand that part of the world either,
Yeah.
To me, that would be like, I would get that stuff out and package it, present it.
You would think with all the marketing that they love to do with their own stuff that they would want to put all these series out and just like flood it, but I guess not.
They've got the Avengers to worry about, and you've got Star Wars to worry about.
That's true.
A lot of the stuff just in the backwater,
Yeah.
Too bad, too, because some of it's great.
I didn't know this until recently, but you absolutely had an influence on me as a kid when I watched Press Your Luck, and I didn't realize that you were the whammy guy. That's so, like, you made the whammy.
Actually, Savage made the whammy. And then he threw it to me because we were getting busy on the movies and stuff, and he just threw that one to me. He got us started, but I picked it up. But yeah, I did the majority of them, I think.
Well, that's awesome. So he created the character? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he created it, and he worked with Bill Cummings, or something like that. Yeah, so he was the one that got it started, and then he got too busy with all the movie stuff, and he just tossed it to me because I was sitting there, and we worked on it together a lot. But I'm shocked that thing has it's so weird, and we were animating on there was no computer animation then.
Right.
We were faking it on this device called the Quantel Paint Box.
Oh.
So we were the first guys drawing on a video screen kind of. That's why they look so crappy. But everybody likes it. It's weird.
Well,
it's so weird that people like really funky stuff like that.
But that character has a sensibility kind of like, do you remember the Noid from Domino's Pizza?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I think, was the Whammy first?
The Whammy, yes. The Whammy was first, I think. And then,
yeah.
And, now that I think about it, it also reminds me of Ratfink.
Oh, yeah, there's a little Ratfink in him. Yeah. Wow, I never really put that together. You're right, though. He has that sort of hot rod, big-eyed, teethy grin.
Yeah, that psychedelic culture that's into melting.
Well, see that's where I grew up, man, because I was born in '62, so I was all about Famous Monsters and the Munsters and Big Daddy Roth and all that stuff.
Nice.
That was where I learned how to draw.
You're kind of a one-man show with a lot of the stuff you've done, and you've contributed a few voices yourself, as we learned earlier in our call. Was that simply out of necessity, or are you secretly an actor?
No, it absolutely was of necessity. Well, I think if you're going to be an animator, you are kind of an actor already, sort of inherently.
Yes.
I mean, because you are putting that personality into your stuff. But the Eek thing came about because we couldn't get the real actors that we wanted. We were after guys like Gene Wilder and John Lovitz, and nobody knew who we were.
Yeah.
And I used to do that voice, the Eek voice, in meetings. I'd be like, well, he talks like this, you do that in enough meetings and people get used to it. And honestly, it came down to it's Thursday night and we have to record on Monday and we don't have an actor. And Savage just said, screw it, man, you're doing it. I was like, okay. It was like that.
Wow.
See, I want to stress this, most of the great stuff ever that's happened in Everett, I'm not just talking about my stuff, I'm talking about across the board, is usually fast and not that well thought out. And you're flying by the seat of your pants, and it turns out great.
So it's out of necessity that these amazing moments are kind of born. Yeah.
The craziness of the situation and the need to get it done quickly because whatever forces you to just jump to your guns. And that's where the good stuff comes from. If you sit there and think it, you'll think it to death, man. And that's the problem. And that's why there's so much crap today, kids.
That's exactly right.
Because, you gotta be a pistol packing possum out there, you gotta think quick.
I like that. One of the things that you've also contributed to is some story ideas for the Roger Rabbit shorts. Now,
not just the ideas. I was like on the story team. I was like one of the lead story guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and those are beautiful shorts. And I know this is going to sound like a really maybe a real base question, but for people that are just sort of looking at a Saturday morning cartoon versus a Roger Rabbit short, obviously money is the answer. But what more specifically than that? Like what makes...
Actually, money's not the... Well, I mean, to get it done on that level, yeah, money was a big part of it. But really, the stuff that makes it great doesn't cost that much, It's about... We never wrote a script. The drawings did the talking, and we just would run from gag to gag with a story. You got Baby Herman, out in the lead, and Roger has found through this treachery. That's all. That's your formula. So go.
But I mean, the animation itself, it looks, there's almost like a glow about it. What is making it look like that? What is the process that makes it look like it's more film-like and less flat? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. Well, the backgrounds are all watercolor backgrounds, just like Tom and Jerry.
Right.
The animation is full, okay? So that means a lot of it's on ones. Everything has shadows and highlights. So it has depth.
Every frame is a different drawing when you say on ones, correct? On
ones means you're shooting single frame.
Right.
So, as opposed to shooting on, whatever they shoot on for crap today. I don't know. 24 frames in a second. If you're shooting one frame, it's going to be very smooth. You can shoot twos a lot, threes sometimes. The more drawings you have, the more frames, the smoother it's going to be.
Right.
It's just the animation.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. And everything has weight and flow and back and forth and squash and stretch. And it's just beautiful is what it is,
Those shorts are incredible. And I wish that some company like the Looney Tunes or whatever would just dump a bunch of money and resources into making shorts like that.
You're asking very scientific questions about the process, and there are ways to cut corners and still have it look good. That's a separate conversation. If you want to talk about the science of animation, we could totally, bore people to tears.
I mean, look.
How that works.
If it's one thing I set out to do with this show, it's bore people to tears.
Well, there you go. Well, we're on our way. No, I mean, it really is. I mean, of course we had money. We had a lot of time. That absolutely matters,
Right.
But a lot of it, if you look at those roughs and storyboards to those things, they're very crude and very rough. And we're talking about gags here and what's funny, contextually, what's funny. And then you go from there. You start with the physics of the comedy. Okay, we're moving from here to here. Let's throw this at him here. Let's throw that. Oh, if we do that, we can do this. Yeah, we can make that really cool. And that's how you build and build and build, You start with a really simple setup,
But it works. It works.
Yeah, because every next level enhances it more. There's another power play coming on that, and you just build and build and build.
Sure. Well, there's a few of you guys out there. There's not too many, but I mean, like when you look at things like Mad Jack the Pirate and you look at Eek the Cat, the sensibility around what you created is very of, like I said, the Tex Avery, Bob Campett eras, and
it's gag driven mainly.
Well, it's great, and I think
it's great to hear.
So these days, if people want to support Bill Kopp nowadays, normally I would say go out and buy his DVDs, but since that's not really a thing right now, apparently with Disney owning those properties, what can people do, or where can they find your work?
Well, I got a new website coming up, Bill Kopp Animation. It's a little funky right now because I'm just getting started with it, and my girlfriend is helping me with that.
Great.
I'm illustrating books now. I'm taking all these crazy cartoons that were generated over the years that are in a pile of sketchbooks, and I'm turning them into books. And the first one is called Little Dead Riding Hood, and I'm almost done with it.
Okay.
And about 10 more drawings to go, but the drawings are beautiful, elaborate, super cartoony, psychedelic things. Yeah, I'm actually doing a lot more voiceover work now to pay the bills.
Well, that's
Yeah,
but that's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, I typically when I have voice actors on the show, I send them a little something to read, and I didn't prepare for that today because I was in my mind we were going to talk about making cartoons, not about making voices. But maybe I'll have you back someday and we'll do a whole voiceover thing.
That'd be great, man. Yeah, we can do that. I'm always open. I'm always here. So
I love it.
And lately, since October, I've just been glued to the drawing table with this book. But it's really fun, man. I mean, it's going to be great. And I'll probably be at, I know for sure I'll be at Midsummer Scream in July with a booth with stuff.
Is that a convention?
Yeah, it's like a Halloween style convention in July in Long Beach, and it's amazing. And,
all right.
It's just a fun place to go if you want to see weird art.
Yeah, I love seeing weird art.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Honestly, Bill, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I will look forward to seeing the book and, of course, the website, which, again, is going to be billcopanimator.com.
I'll have to ask my girlfriend, but it's something like that. It's Bill Cop Animation or Bill Cop Animator, something like that.
You mentioned your girlfriend, so I'm gonna have to ask you. So what's the Sharky the Sharkdog to your girlfriend?
Well, my girlfriend is not as fat as Annabelle.
Okay.
Unfortunately. No, she's great. She's there's no Sharkdog in between us. That's the great thing.
Okay, good. Because there's always something. Just I wasn't sure what it was.
but she's smarter than I am, so she's the one that's handling getting that stuff up. But she's busy in her own right. We're trying to always make time to do new stuff, and yeah, that's great, man.
Well, fantastic. You've made an impact, I know, on my upbringing, and I'm sure many other listeners. So thank you for that. And yeah,
that was my pleasure. They were paying me.
Well, I always loved the it never hurts to help, because it was such a...
Well, it's true, Phil. It never hurts to help, or does it?
Apparently very painfully so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you again,
all
Bill.
right. Yeah, well, stay in touch, man.
I will. Thank you.
All righty.
That was the theme song for Eek the Cat. Both the cartoon's theme and score were composed by Nathan Wang. His collaboration with Bill Kopp continued with Schnookums and Meat, and he even provided original music, including the theme, for The Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Special thanks go out to Bill Kopp once again for joining us here on the show. Thanks so much to my sponsor, Austin Film Meat. And of course, thanks to all of you watching live on Twitch. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you would like to support Stay Tuned, join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/Phil Machi to become a subscriber today. With cool rewards like exclusive interview outtakes, you can also stream this show anytime you like, which means never missing an episode. For more fun, check out my original comic books at retailsunshine.com, and you can interact with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under the handles of both Retail Sunshine and Phil Machi. Also, you can keep up to date with the latest animation news by visiting this show at facebook.com/Stay Tuned Show. I've been Phil Machi, you've been a wonderful audience, and until next time, keep those eyeballs peeled, those ears open, and be sure to stay tuned. Alrighty. Well, we had some technical difficulties tonight. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes. There are occasionally technical difficulties. It is a thing that I have to deal with. So, before we go any further, let me remind you that this episode will appear slightly edited, removing the technical problems tomorrow on YouTube. So all you have to do is go to youtube.com, type my name in, Phil Machi, and do a search, and you'll find me right away. You will find this episode at some point, probably later in the afternoon. So if you want to watch the episode uninterrupted with no technical difficulties, check it out on YouTube tomorrow. And then if you want to hear the really nice, clean, even more edited version of the show, that's going to be on Patreon. All you got to do is go to patreon.com/Philmachi, and you can subscribe to this show. There are different levels, so if you want to toss $1 my way to help out, that's great. If you want to throw in $5 or $10, that gets you access to the podcast and more stuff too, which is awesome. And I very much appreciate it. And that reminds me, I need to thank my Rubber Hose subscribers. I thank them every week. That is part of what makes them one of the perks to being a Rubber Hose subscriber is you get a special shout out every Sunday on Stay Tuned. So thank you once again to Diana A., Ronita Davis, Ryan Shaver, and Victoria Goodman. Thank you so much for being Rubber Hose subscribers. All of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, just head over to Patreon and you can find